Make no mistake about it. The mortal enemy of the ruling elites in Kenya, across the ethnic divide, across the political divide, is the Constitution. The Constitution proclaims in Article 1, Sub-Article 1, that all sovereign power belongs to the people and shall only be exercised in accordance with the Constitution that we passed in the year 2010. That is the problem that the ruling elite have today. Of course, most of them opposed the Constitution, either openly or secretly. I was there. I led the Katiba Sasa campaign. That is the one which came up with the slogan, Katiba ni sasa, mageuzi ni sasa. And of course, the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga and his people very quickly took the slogan and changed it into Katiba ni sasa, kama sio sasa ni sasa hivi, but all for a good cause, because collectively we were able to campaign for the Constitution that was passed in 2010. So that's the reality, fellows. The problem with the police today is not so much the problem with the police. If you read the Maraga report, basically what Maraga says in summary is that we have a colonial force pretending to be a police service. So it's not so much the police, it is the state. You cannot reform Kenya's police under the prevailing circumstances, because the police in Kenya is one of those institutions that was inherited by the ruling elites after independence. And they have made use of the police to intimidate the people, to beat up, to hurt, to do all manner of bad things on the people. Why? Because the police in Kenya continue to serve the same interests that it served when it was formed under colonial rule. It is meant to keep the people rather at bay as the political elite use the state for purposes of accumulation. So unless then you do something about the state itself, unless you're in a position to transform the state into something different, you cannot reform the institutions within the state, because they are simply the purveyors of the philosophy of intimidation, of the philosophy of murdering citizens, of the philosophy of inequalities. You cannot reform the parts and leave the whole as it is. That is not what I studied in philosophy. So it's really a waste of time to even think that you can reform the police in Kenya. And this is why what Gen Zs did in 2014, in 2024 was very significant. Because unless you are able to fundamentally transform the state itself in a revolutionary way, so that it stops being a neo-colonial caricature, then you cannot be able to transform its parts. The state will not all of a sudden stop being a purveyor of the interests of global capital and its representatives in Kenya. It will not. It cannot. And this is the problem with the state in the whole of Africa. This is why African states are unable to unite. Because as individual states, they continue to carry the neoliberal agenda. They continue to do the same thing they were meant to do. That is to act as centers of accumulation for purposes of global capital. Because our elites are basically the foot soldiers of neoliberalism. Our elites were not manufactured in order to serve the African people. The state, the entirety of the system, the state, the elite, their manner of thinking, everything was packaged to serve the centers of accumulation in London, in New York, in Tokyo, in Beijing, and other centers out there. Just read center periphery theories, and you will understand that dynamic very well.